Blessings, everybody. This is Dale. Thank you so much for joining with me today on the Word Podcast. We're continuing our examination in the book of Hebrews, and we're up to the 5th chapter right now. So let's just jump in there. If I can pull the 5th chapter up, there it is. The 5th chapter, verse 1 starts off with this word, for, F-O-R, for. In other words, it's a lot like therefore. So it carries the idea of, in light of what we've just seen, there's some things you need to know. So let's back up a little bit and set our minds upon the context. Remember the last 3 verses of the 4th chapter. In other words, the previous 3 verses. Remember, there's no chapter division, there's no verse division or anything like that in the original manuscripts and the original documents. Of course, we don't have the original documents, I know that, but I'm just saying that the chapter and the verse division came into much time later. So beginning with the 14th verse of the 4th chapter, remember we saw this. Therefore, since we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast our confession. For we do not have a high priest who cannot sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has been tempted in all things as we are, yet without sin. Therefore, let us draw near with confidence to the throne of grace, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in the time of need. So we covered this in the previous episode. There's 2 therefores here. Therefore, since we have this great high priest, hold fast our confession. Therefore, let us draw near. And then we saw how there was a comparison between the high priest of the Mosaic law and the great high priest, which is the Lord Jesus Christ. And so the author is building on that. In the 5th chapter, the first verse, he continues on. For every high priest taken from among men is appointed on behalf of men in things pertaining to God, in order to offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins. So he's reminding them of what they know, because this is their background, folks. This is their tradition. This is what they were raised in as believers with a Jewish background. He says, you know what the high priest was. The high priest is appointed on behalf of men, and they're appointed in things related to the things pertaining to God, to offer gifts and sacrifices for sins. But it doesn't stop there. Verse 2, the sentence continues. He can deal gently with the ignorant and misguided, since he himself also is beset with weaknesses. So he's explaining how with the high priest of man under the Mosaic law, that they understood. They could deal gently with someone who was ignorant meaning unlearned. They could deal gently with someone who was misguided. In other words, someone who was doing the wrong thing, going the wrong way, thinking the wrong thing. Why could they deal gently with them? Because they themselves were also beset with weaknesses. And so he was saying this about Jesus, remember? Not that Jesus was beset with weaknesses, but the fact that he had been tempted in all ways. Well, the sentence continues, Hebrews 5, verse 3. And because of it, he is obligated to offer sacrifices for sins, as for the people, so also for himself. So what he's saying is, hey, the high priest is a man just like we are, okay? And he offers gifts and sacrifices for sins. He's able to do this. He's able to gently deal with the ignorant and the misguided because he's human. He's just like the people themselves. Since he's just like the people, then he's under obligation to offer sacrifice for the people, but also to offer sacrifice for himself. Now, watch verse 4. And no one takes the honor to himself, but receives it when he's called by God, even as Aaron was. So he's saying this is not something that you take upon your own self and you determine I'm going to be a priest. It's not what the northern kingdom of Israel did when the real priests left and went south, and the request went out, hey, anybody wants to be a priest, y'all come in, we'll make you a priest. Well, you can imagine what kind of people signed up for that, you know. So no, it's not saying that. You do it because you're called by God, even as Aaron was. Aaron was called by God. And then God said, Aaron, your lineage is the one by which the high priest is going to come, that the priest is going to come. Now, the next two verses are one sentence. We're going to read them, maybe say a couple words about it, but it's introducing something that we're going to cover in and out for several chapters. Hebrews 5, verse 4. And no one takes the honor for himself. Hebrews 5:5, I'm sorry. So also, Christ did not glorify himself so as to become a high priest, but he who said to him, "You are my son, today I have begotten you," just as he says also in another passage, "You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek." Oh my, Melchizedek. That is a name, a title, a word, or whatever it is that many of us have heard. And it's actually sort of funny in the church. It's like a standard of when somebody says something about Melchizedek, people go, ooh, you must be really religious. You must be really spiritual. No, not at all, okay? So here's where we're going to leave it with today. What it's saying is that the Father who'd said to the Son, "You are my son today because I've begotten you," he has made Jesus a great high priest. But he made him a great high priest and said, and this is an Old Testament quote, "You are a priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek." Melchizedek. Well, we don't have time to do it today, but we will sort of delve in a little bit and see what we can find out about Melchizedek. He's only mentioned a couple places in the Old Testament, and they are not extended passages at all. And so Melchizedek is quite an enigmatic character, and there's great debate over who he is, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the important takeaway from this, okay, and what we're going to see through the balance. In the fourth chapter and fourth verse, we see that no one takes the honor in himself, but receives it when he's called by God, even as Aaron was. You had an Aaronic line of the priesthood, okay? You had that line of the tribe of Levi. Jesus was a great high priest and is a great high priest, but he's not of the Aaronic line. He's not of Levi. He's of the tribe of Judah. And the order that he's from is not the order of Aaron, but it's the order of Melchizedek. And that, as you're going to see, is really, really interesting. Well, we'll look at that next time, okay? Again, I'm Dale. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you then. Goodbye.